What's the worst case of rich kid syndrome you've seen? A kid in my graduating high school class was very wealthy. His parents bought him a Land Rover when he was 16 and he crashed it into a school bus. They bought him another Land Rover and he lost it street racing. Guess what? They bought him a Mercedes. Edit. He crashed it street racing, not bet it. Fraternity did a pledge event in which we were placed in a limo. Normal friend. Wow, this is awesome. I've never been in a limo before. Rich kid syndrome friend. Haven't you ever been to the airport? I went to a private school for high school, so we had a lot of those crashed one fancy car and daddy bought them a new one kind of stories floating around. But I didn't know any of them personally. Then I went to a private college. Suddenly most of my classmates seemed to be these people. The worst by far was this guy my roommate dated for a while, had a really nice car but had no idea how to take care of it. When it started to have trouble, he dropped it in front of a friend's house and had his parents buy him a new one. Spilled a drink all over someone's computer and when they got upset, he laughed and told them they could just get a new one. Told several professors that he paid for an A so he damn well better get it. In poetry class, WTF dude, that was the easiest day ever. Didn't understand why my roommate went home for a weekend to help her dad after surgery. He asked her why she didn't have people for that. Threw away his textbooks when he was done with them. I dug through his trash with his roommate and we split the whole even Stevens, and so much more. He didn't last long as my roommate's boyfriend nor as anyone's friend. I don't think he ever graduated. Weirdly, he had a twin sister who was very sweet and down to earth, so I have no idea how that happened. Was in college. One of my residents was a rich freshman from Rhode Island. He lives on an island and takes a ferry into town. Anyways, his first week, he asked if there was fresh water available in the shower. I didn't understand what he meant, but apparently he didn't like showering with city water and didn't realize it was everywhere he went. I was so shocked and didn't know what to say that I suggested he used water bottles to clean him. Yeah, he didn't last long. My friend was Chinese Canadian. She worked as an English tutor for the Chinese uni students. Her role was to teach them functional English, help their pronunciation and work with them on essays etc. What ended up happening was her teaching these students life skills, how to use a washing machine, how to grocery shop etc. She had to call one family because they were sending the 19-year-old kid $25,000 a month for living expenses. This was back when a student apartment was like $600 a month on average, 90s. She explained to the parents that the amount was excessive. The parents chuckled about it but didn't stop. Girl in my high school physics class offering her brand new iPhone to be destroyed in an experiment because my dad will just buy me a new one. She had it for like 1 week. This kind of pales compared to some of these, but I'll give it a go. When I was a broke as duck bike messenger, I was dating a woman who was at a major restaurant fortune. One evening, she wanted to go to a club downtown, and I said I couldn't go because I didn't have any money. She said I should come on anyway, so I figured she's footing the bill. When we got to the club and it's time to pay the cover at the door, she pays for herself and starts to walk in. I'm like, hey, I don't have any money. I can't get in. She comes back out and tells me to just put it on my credit card, but of course I don't have one. She tells me she'll drive me to an ATM. But of course I don't have a bank account because I'm broke. I'm standing there in the street with her, trying futilely to explain that I literally do not own any money. She could not grasp the concept. I ended up walking home and she went to the club. We did not last long. Dude would stand in a club and rip up bills of €10 yelling, "This is nothing to me." Okay, how about just giving away beer instead of antagonizing anyone in sight? I volunteer for Burning Man, which happens to attract some of the worst trustafarians I have ever seen. People who claim to live bohemian lifestyles of art and magic, that also have unending parental support for their magical globe-trotting adventure. It's frustrating, because these people live in the most sheltered bubble of all. I can't even begin to describe how infuriating it is to deal with folks who can drop $50,000 on a week at a festival. Once when I was at a camp, me and a few other kids were playing a game. Kids from a different part of the camp came over and told us to leave. We replied that we were there first. One of them replied, "Yeah, but does your dad have a helicopter?" Worked at Trader Joe's while going to college, as did a lot of other people working there. One day while stocking the shelves with a coworker, a father and his daughter were shopping next to my coworker. I overheard the daughter ask Daddy, "What is she doing?" The father replied, "Honey, that's what happens when you don't go to college." My coworker cried for the rest of her shift. The father was asked to leave. I can't make many assumptions about his wealth, but he definitely had the mentality. Classmate at university was from Qatar. Family owned large shares in a bank and was generally very deeply involved with the financial world in the Middle East. Needless to say, they were disgustingly filthy rich. First day on campus, we all decide to play soccer, so he goes to his room to change. When we come back from playing, we all go back to his room, and when we walk in, his clothes were still exactly where he threw them on the floor. He lost his shit at the idea that nobody would clean his room for him and that he had to do his own laundry. He ended up going shopping every 2-3 weeks for really nice and expensive clothes and would throw them out after wearing them a few times because he didn't want to do laundry. I'm talking about a Brooks Brothers button-down shirt worth over $100 only being worn once or twice before ending up in the trash. Edit. To all the people saying I should have washed it and sold it, or gone dumpster diving or whatever. I'm pretty sure a few of the people on that floor entertained that thought, and probably a few did it. I had an on-campus job and was selling crafts on eBay and preferred the satisfaction of earning my own money. I used to work at a wholesale kitchen appliance distributor. It was a multi-million-dollar company. The CEO's daughter was my age, 23 at the time, and would often come shoot the sheet with us in sales. She had a high-rise condo by herself downtown, worth about $300,000. After I left, I bumped into one of my old co-workers and she came up in our conversation. I asked how she was doing, and my co-worker informed me that Daddy bought her another high-rise condo, which was directly across from her current condo, and the only other condo on that floor. Why did she get 2 high-rise condos? Well, she wanted the floor to herself. I kinda felt sorry for her because she was an only child and didn't have many friends. She'd also never had a boyfriend in her life. She confided this in me when we were talking alone one time, and said all the guys she tries to date are intimidated by her family's wealth. Looking back now, I think she might have been coming on to me. I still regret not asking her out. I went to a private Catholic high school, so you had a lot of spoiled rich kids. My first car was a 1994 Toyota 4Runner that mom had gotten at a police auction. It was raised, had a pretty good sound system, and eventually the antenna broke off, so I stuck a cost hanger in there. This car was ghetto as duck and all my friends loved it, mostly because I was one of the first people on my class who could drive. Anyway, my friend's girlfriend at the time was spoiled as duck and she was given a Mercedes-Benz S-Class as a birthday gift. She constantly talked shit about my car and talked about how much better her Benz was and how she would never be caught dead in a Toyota. I just her to enjoy it while she could, because she was going to wreck her car and Daddy wasn't going to buy another one. Fast forward to that fateful day when she did crash her car a few miles away from school. I recognized her car, so I stopped to ask if she was okay. She was fine. I told her I would offer you a ride home, but you wouldn't be caught dead in my car now, would you? I left her as there. Yeah, I pulled over mostly to rub it in her face. Yeah, I was petty as hell. So sue me. She shouldn't have been such a bitch. I met a kid who didn't understand the concept of washing dishes. Wife went back to college. New city, didn't know anyone. Started a movie night thing to meet some people and build a social circle. We provided a home-cooked meal, a fun movies that most people hadn't seen, and a place to gather went over great and had 6-12 people showing up each week to hang out and talk and eat our food. Generally good people, because she was going back to college, a lot of college kids came. All good. I knew this one guy was from a rich family. His first night there he's bragging to everyone who'll listen about this 30k plus truck his parents just bought him and telling everybody how awesome he is. After everything is done we're collecting dishes in the kitchen and he walks over and following me to the kitchen he walks in and puts his dish and silverware in the trash can. Hey man, what are you doing? I'm assuming he brain blanked for a second. No big deal. What, give me the dishes, don't throw 'em out, it's a ceramic plate, not a paper one. Why, he asks, obviously confused. Dart. I'm going to wash it. Why, he repeats. Now I'm confused. So it'll be clean for next time. Oh. Like the dining hall. Oh. Okay. Sure. I find out later he basically lives off takeout, restaurants, etc. He's never cooked anything in his life. His family has servants who clean up after meals and he just assumed dishes were something you threw out when you were done. College was the first place where he even saw the idea of putting dishes somewhere other than the trash, or leaving them on the table afterward. He wasn't a bad guy honestly, just I was amazed something so incredibly basic had slipped by him for years. Not me, but my scuba instructor told this story. Some rich family paid him a few $1,000s to fly down and give private scuba lessons to them in the Bahamas. In scuba, you have to demonstrate you can handle all the skills in the pool before they let you in the ocean. During the pool part, they got to the skill of clearing the water out of your mask, which is mildly unpleasant but not painful or even hard. They refused to do it. My instructor said if you can't clear a mask you can't be cleared to dive. They spent a few thousand on private scuba classes, and wasted it all because they refused a pretty simple skill. The trust fund bitch. Yeah baby, at my HS who had a brand new loaded Eddie Baller Edition Explorer and claimed he paid for it with his own hard-earned money. That was a $45 K SUV. No way you paid for that as a 16-year kid with no real job. His spoiling went on in many ways and through college and beyond. Now he's a loser who parties like he's 19 with a job he got through daddy's connections. He's in his mid-30s with a failed marriage and no friends. I hate he never had a chance, but the guy's a real big dig and always has been. I'm sure he will burn all his inheritance and life up. Shame to see. My cousin is just graduated from high school last year. His parents are big time real estate agents in our hometown. Like they both probably clear $1 million a year easily. So my cousin goes off to college and gets busted for public drunkenness and resisting arrest his first semester. Gets expelled from school, starts bumming off his folks for money. His dad just bought him a brand new Range Rover last weekend as a reward for learning from his mistakes and staying positive when the law targeted him. During a holiday, my cousins came down to visit from New York. Two of them were younger, I think one was 11, the other 15 at the time, and we knew that their family had a decent amount of money. My grandmother, not having a lot to give and not knowing what these two boys could want, gave them money cards with $20 a piece inside instead of gifts. When they opened them, the younger one laughed loudly and the older one just looked disgusted before looking up at my grandma's smiling face and saying, "What the duck do you think we can buy with $20? I worked at Sunglass Hut in South Florida. One day a family of 4 came in to buy glasses. Now I am used to people having money and buying stupidly expensive sunglasses. But the dad told the kids, who were probably 6 and 4, to get the glasses they wanted. Both grabbed 4 pairs of sunglasses that cost over $250 each. Then both kids pulled out wads of $100 bills to pay for them. Went to visit a friend at university, Queen's University, and they were all known for being spoiled brats. We're at his student house with his roommates. I introduce myself and say what's up. His one roommate looks at me, looks down, looks back up at me and asks, "Are those knockoff Sperry's?" Of course they were, being the brokest college student I was, so I told him yes and he just goes wow, and walks away. Kid never said another word to me the rest of the weekend. Edit. Sorry, I was wrong. Not all the students at Queen's are not soiled brats. I should have said all the ones I have met. Haven't experienced it a lot, but there was one guy I met in DC. He was in his mid-20s and was probably making $150,000 a year easily. He had gone to Duke and had come from a wealthy family. The guy did not care about money whatsoever. We were playing a group game on our phones and my 2-year-old phone was being a bit slow. He kept having to comment on how shitty my phone was and would be like, dude, seriously, you have to get a new phone. Eventually when I said I was waiting for my 2-year contract to be up and get my next phone for cheap, he said something along the lines of just going and buying one from the store. Not everyone in their 20s just has $500 they can drop on a new phone. Some of us have to wait for sales or deals. I did feel smug when I proved him wrong about how many seats Cameron Indoor has at Duke, a little over 9,000. He was adamant that I was wrong until I looked it up on my shitty phone. Girl I know, whose dad is rich. Her dad owns 6 restaurants, and got her a very cozy job in a field she was passionate about. She then moans that it's not fair that poor people get an education bursary, £150 PM, I believe, when she doesn't. Qualifying recipient is calculated by household income. She lives with the rich dad, so naturally she can't get it because he pays for everything to do with the household from food, to roof, to bills, and other expenses. She says this is unfair because he doesn't give me anything other than the earlier highlighted sheet, and just because they're not poor doesn't mean my parents give me money. I need it as much as people with lower household income. There is a reason it is household income based. The bursary is for people who struggle to pay rent, bills, or feed themselves. You don't need that. Old roommate signed up for classes at the community college. Never. Not once went to class. Obviously failed. His mom got mad and over the phone he explained to her that the reason he failed was his car wasn't good enough, 2012 Ford, which was fine, and needed a new one. So his mom buys him a brand new car, 2016. He signs up for classes the next semester, and still ends up never going to class. I'm seeing it right now, actually. I have a friend I went to art school with and we both studied photo. We both coincidentally live in a large city, where I have been working and making art in my spare time for about a decade. She's also been here about that long, but has been fortunate enough to have her father completely underwrite her life, meaning no need to work, and she even has a full in-home darkroom set up in her apartment. Well, Dad finally pulled the plug on the free art life. So, now she is likely going to have to leave our city. Her response was to set up a GoFundMe to the tune of 11 grand, asking her friends to pitch in to help her renew her lease and pay rent, etc. Pretty mind-boggling on so many levels. I guess people who have had stuff handed to them their entire life have a very different concept of what's owed to them, and what's okay to ask for. The art life is tough, I know from lived experience, but there's no way in hell I'd hit my friends up for rent money over it. The crueler is, she's had a decade of what amounts to a free art grant, and the amount of work she's produced is ridiculously small. I personally create more work in a year, and that's with a full-time job. At university I met a girl who became part of our friend group. She seemed down to earth, however it became evident she wasn't at university to expand her career prospects, but to appease her parents and have fun. Unexpectedly, we were lumped with a bill, and all of us living together needed to find £200. I had a job, and she kindly offered to pay it and I could pay her back weekly. She changed her mind a few weeks later, and demanded I pay in full immediately. I obviously obliged, not wanting to cause any issues, causing me to not have money to feed myself for a few weeks. A day later she had forgotten all about it and was joking with us all about how she had run out of cash, but it's okay cause she told daddy and he transferred a few thousand to her. She laughed the entire time. Hilarious. Probably going to get lost, but just wanted to share this. I had a party for my 13th birthday. I was really pumped for this party, since I recently got homeschooled and barely got to see my friends. I invited this one girl who was spoiled as duck, and thought the world revolved around her. She controlled everything we did. The party was at a hotel, by the way, sleepover too. She even had her own money to eat there, I think about $30, and she didn't have to use it, so she asked my mom for money even when she had her own because she didn't want to waste it. My mom got fed up with her after the kid wouldn't let her sleep on the bed because she wanted a bed to herself. Wanna know what the kid starts doing? Starts crying. For one. Screams "duck you" at my mother about 3 times. And keeps saying I only have to listen to my mom and that you don't matter. Then starts calling her own mother that she's getting yelled at. Her mother didn't pick up. My mom got us a lot of things. She'll let us go swimming, paid for an arcade, let us eat at this cafe, and spend her money on extra sheet for my friends. That spoiled little sheet never said thank you once. All my mom got was a "duck you." I think the only reason I even invited that little sheet is so that she wouldn't whine to me over the phone. Years later, she's still the ducking same. She has no friends except for her online friends and her online girlfriend. I stopped being friends with her after that incident cause well, my mom doesn't like her obviously, and she just makes me pissed off. TD, LR, little me is pumped for a birthday only to have a spoiled sheet ruin it all. My roommate has terrible rich kid syndrome. Her parents are both film producers, so she's lived a very Hollywood lifestyle. She doesn't have a job and has made no effort to get a job, but when her friends ask her about it she complains that she can't get one because the work-study kids took all of them. Not true. She wants to be a writer but is not taking any writing classes because she doesn't want to do the work, so she's taking a bunch of art classes instead. Her side of the room is a mess all the time. She rarely ever goes to class, instead she sits in our room coked out, but she insists that she only does coke socially and doesn't have a drug problem. She orders out to eat for every meal of the day and orders new clothes at least once a week with her mother's credit card. Her parents put her on an allowance because she was spending too much, so she started selling her prescription Adderall to fund her coke habit. I think the thing that bothers me most is that she has no desire to do anything with her life. She doesn't go to class or do anything productive, but her parents have lined up jobs and internships for her while I struggle and work really hard just for a chance to get the opportunities that are just handed to her. I had a friend I met through competitive gaming that I visited once for a tournament. He and all his friends went to prep school and were now all in university. I stayed at his uni rented house because it was before school season and there was empty rooms. He told me he didn't talk to his family because his father kicked him out and abandoned him. We keep drinking and he keeps explaining, and it turns out his father felt like when my friend turned 18 he should leave the home. Old values, understandable. So the dad pays for my friend's rent, his uni tuition, and his car. Dude still considers himself abandoned. My mum got me a pair of jeans for my 18th birthday. I couldn't even imagine having all of that provided for me. Miso worked at a restaurant supply store as the warehouse manager. A few years into working there, the owner brings his son on to help out around the store after his failed attempt at opening a restaurant. He worked part-time, was there on average 2-3 days a week, and went on fishing trips a few times a month. His father gifted him a 4-bedroom home following the birth of his son, and he had a huge collection of vehicles like ATVs, jet skis, a motorcycle, BMW, Jeep and Lincoln SUV. It was obvious he never grew up having issues with money or worrying about paying bills. If he liked something he had to have it. If something new like a phone was coming out, he'd be the first one to get it. After a while my sir would tell me how frustrating it is working with someone that doesn't care about money, especially when he and I are living in a state with no family members and are fully responsible for ourselves. If my sir vented to him about an unexpected bill or expense that came up, he'd just blow it off or ask why we didn't have someone there to help us pay for it. I was working at a movie theater in the late 90s and we had this kid there who was about 10 and wanted to see Dr. Dolittle. There was only one problem. Dr. Dolittle wouldn't be out for another 2 weeks. His parents took him to see Mulan originally. Wanting to shut their kid up, the parents asked to speak to my manager so they could get a private viewing of Dr. Dolittle for their little sheet. My manager said that we wouldn't have the movie for another week. The kid, who was practically a male Veruca Salt from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which, now that I think about it, this is probably where the term salty comes from, started yelling I wanna see Dr. Dolittle because he wanted to see a movie with talking animals. At this point, my manager would not take any more of this kid's sheet and told the kid, ignoring the parents, and said, Suck it up and get out of my theater. One day kid, your parents are going to die and they won't be able to give you anything anymore. No amount of money can stop that. Why don't you think about that for a second? Everyone in the room was speechless at what my manager had said. The kid was silent, and his head started to look at the floor with a 1,000-yard stare. I thought I'd never see anyone get laid into this hard. I was proven wrong in a couple of weeks when later that month in June of 1998 when the Undertaker threw mankind off Hell in a Cell and plummeted 16 feet through an announcer's table. Guy I went to college with tried to impress my female friend by sending her a video of him pouring out a bottle of Armand de Brignac in the club. Had a couple more on the table as well. He didn't know much about Australian culture. We all had a good laugh grown at his dad's expense. One of my friends in college pulled me aside at a party and asked me to help him make bagel bites because he didn't know how to work an oven. Couldn't even make ducking bagel bites at 21 years old. He was obviously beyond loaded. Grew up in a house with 3 maids. Of course, he was also the type to always rant about those lazy poor people and welfare queens and all that, having never worked a day in his life, and surely never will. Maybe not worst. Back when I was in college, in the US, at the end of every school year, the students who were from other countries, in particular, Japan, China, and India, would throw out barely used clothes, bicycles, and any other items they couldn't bring back with them over summer and didn't bother to keep in storage. These were often students that were going to this US college for 4 years, but who were just going home for summer. Many people would go dumpster diving after they left and find designer clothes and tons of other great stuff for free. Can't complain, cause many of us benefited from it, but I can't imagine how rich you must be to throw away those things and not think that anyone else would ever want a barely used designer shirt or sunglasses. Browsing the comments just to remind myself how blessed I am. My family is far from rich and we've been going through some tough financial times for the past few years. But I appreciate the small things with a lot of thought more than I would ever appreciate a Mercedes bought out of mindless wealth. I got a 2002 Jeep Wrangler for my 18th birthday. There are pieces falling apart and I've spent countless hours under the hood working on it with my dad. But I love that Jeep. Mom, Dad, if you ever read this, please know that I appreciate and love everything you've done for me. If I ever act unappreciative, spoiled, or bratty, I am so sorry.